We're all the way alive. What's happening, people? Where y'all at? Where you at? 7:30. It's Thursday. I'm here. Your man is here. Where you at? Where you at? And you too. Okay, people. Oh, slowly. Slowly I turn step by step, inch by inch. Hi, how you doing? How you doing? What's happening, people? We're all the way live. We're all the way live. Folks, it's been a crazy day. I know some of you guys have been paying attention, and I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing going. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Last week I took off, and I don't like to talk about where I'm going because I don't want people to know when I'm not where I'm supposed to be when I'm where I live. But anyway, I took off to spend some time with my family. I had two granddaughters that were graduating, so without any further ado, I want to say congratulations to Kaya. I'm not going to say her last name, and Tamira. These young ladies, and I still hate to admit that they're young ladies now, are my granddaughters, and they're at that age where they both just turned 18, and I'm dealing with that as well. So, drive a black man a drink, I tell you. But what's crazy is so many things have been going through my head. So all you guys that's been checking on me and sent me inbox messages asking me was it okay and this, that, and the other. Everything's fine. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being concerned about me and checking up on me. All is well in Baptiste land. The Hankton is doing fine. So with that, I just want to say, hey, how you doing? Hope everybody out there is okay. I hope y'all didn't miss me too much last week. But I'm just getting back in the fold. So much is going on, man. And there's not much I could say to you that you don't already know. I know you know some of the madness that's been going on. Um, but before I even get started, I want to say we're tired of hearing condolences. So before I say anything else, I just want to say that again. We're tired of hearing condolences. These families don't need, you have my deepest sympathies and condolences. What they need is a plan moving forward so that other families don't have to go through what they've been subjected to. And imagine, as much as I go to the grocery store, and now we're at a place in our consciousness where we're looking at everybody sideways, you know? So it is what it is. It's about 7:31, 1 minute past the half, and I'm gonna give a couple people a little chance to come up in here, get off the short school bus, find their way to the seat um, before I really get started. But I want to again just say, hey man, y'all, you just don't know how it made me feel that so many people took it upon themselves to send me, you know, greetings and checking up on me because I said, and I didn't give a reason for me canceling the show. And I purposely did that because um, whether you realize it or not, I've got people that watch my show that's not that fond of me. And that's one of the reasons I don't post a lot of pictures of my family, especially my kids and my grandkids. And that's the other reason why I don't talk about what's going on here and there. So, with that, we got a couple minutes. I don't know, man. I'm just crazy where we are. I'm gonna make this quick tonight because I know it's gonna get to me, and I'm gonna just be honest. I know it's gonna get to me because um, as I watch my nieces, uh, my nieces, my granddaughters, and their families, I couldn't help but to look around the arenas and these auditorium. And one graduation was in this this sports field, and I'm looking around and I'm saying, all it takes is one idiot. And I guess to the good, we had lots of Atlanta and DeKalb County police officers there, but a lot of damage still could have been done. And I mean, they were patting people down, but it's too easy. People go out and they come back in, and they don't pat them down a second time. So there's ways that you could get things in. And I mean, it's a shame that our kids, this is the first year that they've been back since COVID and Corona, and now they have to deal with debt and mayhem. There's something wrong, people. There's something wrong. Something definitely wrong. We got 3 minutes past the half, and I'm going to go ahead. Good evening and welcome to the show. As always, I want to thank you for spending your Thursday nights with me. I say this, and I'm truly honest about this. I'm truly humbled Thursday night you choose to be here listening to me give you my take on these things that don't make sense. My name is Hank Batiste. My show is called OMITDALOGIC. This shit makes no sense. I'm your host tonight, and the voices in my head, they're sickened with shock at another white murderer being taken into custody alive. 2 Saturdays ago in Buffalo, New York, and I know this is no news, but I want to reiterate because the consistency of the madness, this plethora of hate that plagues us. 2 Saturdays ago in Buffalo, New York, an 18-year-old self-proclaimed white supremacist drove over 190 miles to, to target black people in a market, in a supermarket. This past Tuesday, that's 2 days ago, people, another 18-year-old American bred sociopath shot his grandmother in the face. Then he went to an elementary school and he proceeded to murder 19 kids and 2 adults. After spending this past week in Atlanta, I got a taste of this cancer of what I call the Trumpublicans running for office. And I'm more pissed and sadly more determined to remind everybody why these next 166 days till the midterm election, and how important there are. There are midterm elections going on now, primaries, which is going to determine what Democrat runs against what Republican or Trumpublican. And I guess one of the things that really shook me was I don't know. I never really watched the show, but I looked at Dr. Oz a different way. I always looked at him as someone who was kind of straight up and straight laced. And then I come to find out that he's one of Despicable Delusional Donnie's disciples. And I'll probably never look at him the same. Anyone that uses that type of rhetoric, anyone that will go to, in my mind, that length to have power, there's something wrong with them. And they need not be voted to office to begin with. So after spending this past week in Atlanta, I'm reminded, and I'm more determined to get you guys engaged, to get you guys excited. I know we are all worn out. Trust me. Trust me, I am as well. It did my heart so much good to spend time with my children and my grandkids, but it just reminded me just how vulnerable we are. And what would I do if I was on the other end of those condolences? So I'm reinvigorated, and I want you to carry that same renewed spirit as we march ahead for these next 166 days. So tonight I'm going to talk about some of the bleak choices, and I said this last week, not last week, but week before. We have very bleak choices. It's sad when in this country that's supposed to be so great, our choices are still the lesser of two evils. So I'll be the first to admit that. Either we re-elect the Democrats, the DIMs, because I'll be the first to admit it is on, but it's showing is shining dimly, and we hold these people accountable, or we allow the Trumppublicans to get back in office and we see more of what's been happening. I don't know if you realize it, but over the last 5 years, there's been a steady increase to the hateful rhetoric. There's been a steady increase of the white supremacy groups in all of these senseless hate murders that's based on fear, that's based on bullshit, basically. So I'll admit these are some bleak choices. This is the lesser of two evils. One does almost nothing, and the other one does too much of the wrong thing. So those are our choices moving ahead. But, and I'll say this again, if the Trump Republicans get up in there, the first thing that's going to happen, especially if despicable, delusional Donnie gets back in office, the first thing they're going to do is eradicate the 25th Amendment so he can try to become president for life. Mark my words, those are not Creole powers. That's an analysis based on my background. That's an analysis based on my education. That's analysis based on these tarot cards, tea leaves, and everything else. The second thing they're going to be doing, because this replacement theory has become so mainstream, we're going to see more of the same of what we see at night. Now, let me take a break, Brett. We're going to see more of this hateful rhetoric. We're going to see more of these domestic terrorists eradicating senseless murders and slaughtering people simply because of the color of their skin. So tonight's show is simply called The Party That Breeds Domestic Terrorists. My name is Hank Batiste. This is OMITDALOGIC. This shit makes no sense, but let's make sense of it. Let's make it make sense. Let's do this. First up, this hateful rhetoric in the making of a domestic terrorist. For the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've been saying the very same thing. I am more stressed about this midterm election, this upcoming midterm election, than I was about the president elections of 2020 when we were trying to get rid of Trump. I am more stressed about these upcoming midterm elections on November the 8th than I was of the 2020 elections. Because what's going to happen in this November is going to shape what happens for the immediate next 6 years. the last 2 years of Joe Biden's presidential administration and the next 4 years, and probably the 4 years after that. But for sure, the next 6 years. If we lose the slim advantage that we have in Congress, then Biden is no longer going to be the lame duck president that he is now. They're going to start running him. They're going to start running him out of town in ways that we can't even imagine. So every week for the last 3 weeks, my consciousness and your consciousness, whether you realize it or not, and we've all been super saturated with this nonsense, this bullshit, this hateful rhetoric, these senseless murders and slaughters and massacres, and all these adjectives to describe what's happening that we can't wrap our head around. And I don't know about you, but I've been having these recurrent, redundant dreams of going somewhere and having a good time. And then something happens, and there's this mass craziness. And I'm trying to get back to the car. And I'm trying to get back to, I don't know if you have, but I have. I've been having those kind of dreams. And I've been worried about those people that I care about because I feel like I can take care of myself. But I can't be there to take care of each of my children. I can't be there to take care of each of my grandkids. And neither can you. So every week we're being reminded, and our fears are real. Our fears are being renewed by this menace that they call white nationalism, by this thing that they're comparing the critical race theory is bad according to them. But the white replacement, the grand replacement theory, they say is real, and it's becoming more mainstream. So I often say that the biggest difference between black pride and white nationalism is I my black pride, I don't have to hate you to love myself. In contrast, white pride is the fear and laziness of their way of life, their white privilege being in jeopardy. The only way anybody, black, white, brown, Puerto Rican, Haitian, German, or what have you, the only way anyone can lose a job is not being the best or striving to do the best at what they were hired to do. As a black child, I was raised to believe that I could not afford to be mediocre. Like most of my friends that made something of themselves, we were taught that you had to work 10 times as hard to be thought to be half as good. So whether it was sports or academics, we worked hard in the long hours. We put in the work to not just be good, we strove to be the best at whatever we did. And as a result, despite systematic racism, some of us are doctors, lawyers, politicians, administrators, and so forth and so on. So our hard work is paid off. Meanwhile, some other people are saying all you got to do is be white. All you have to do is show up. And when you can no longer show up, then your way of life is in jeopardy. And that's what the replacement theory is all about, the quick and dirty. Least common denominator. I'll break this shit down to it's unfixably broke. It's about laziness. It's not about working hard because if I don't care. When I had a staff, I didn't have a black staff. I didn't have a Puerto Rican staff. I had a multicultural staff. And that staff was based on performance, not on personality, not on race. I didn't show anyone favoritism because they looked like me. In contrast, I didn't punish anyone because they didn't look like me. What's crazy is when I hear you need to go back where you came from, I'm the first to remind them. My great grandfather was what you call Native American. He was Indian. So if I go back where I came from, there would be a Choctaw or Blackfoot tribe that I would go to. And we were there before Thomas Jefferson purchased Louisiana. So if anybody needs to go back where they came from, I think it's you, partner. But when you look at me, you don't see a red man. You see the melanin in my skin, and you see my other grandfather, my great grandfather, who came over here, who was abducted, taken from his homeland. You see my great grandmother, who was called a poisson blanc than most white people. She had German Jew blood. So go back where I came from. Replacement theory. I can't be down on one person because I got all of those people inside of me. And truth be told, so do they. And that's what frightens them. Because when their daughter looks at me, they don't see a handsome black man. They see a handsome man. They see a man that they want to be with because of how I carry myself. It has nothing to do with anything else. And that's what frightens them. We strove to be the best. As a result, I became some things that I worked hard to become. And then God had a plan for me. And I had the job that I consider to be my Academy Award. For 12 years, I ran the President's Hospital. I performed medical exams on presidents of the United States and their families, congressmen, statesmen from around the world, and so forth and so on. And I lived a life that many only dreamed of. And racism being what it was, truth be told, if I was a white boy when I left Bethesda, there'd have been a red carpet rolled out for me. When I left Bethesda, I still had to create my own way. Because unbeknownst to most of you, and I said this before, it's never been about Democrats or Republicans. Because all of these people still have some of these same prejudices. Remember, Obama wasn't just fighting Republicans, he was fighting Democrats too. And truth be told, wasn't just fighting white folks. Because I know just as many black folks who say he ain't never do nothing for me. Well, what made you think that he was going to do something special for you just because of the color of your skin? And then how can you get mad when a white man does that? I could never claim black privilege. I could never claim red privilege as a Native American. I could never claim anything but the hard work that I did and the fruit of that labor associated with said hard work. As a result, there are some who don't pose a threat. See, when we become doctors, lawyers, politicians, and we start to buy houses and when we start to buy property, when we start to excel, it frightens those that are mediocre. It frightens those whose kids are so spoiled, they've had everything given to them. They like it when, you know, we kill each other. They like it when we on the stage getting an award and we slap each other. And it has nothing to do. My own child said black people were mad just because Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, and white people saw it. No. Anytime one black man puts his hand on another black man, it pisses me off because I know the escalation could end in somebody getting killed and somebody else being incarcerated. And then all of those little kids that depend on that father or whatever, whether do they go? So we need this country to be taken back. We need someone who's going to lead this country out of the abyss. And I've said it before, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are not the ones to do it. So when we reclaim, when we increase this as advantage, the first thing that should happen is we pass the gavel to somebody other than Pelosi, someone who's going to be more in tune with legislating and leading than trading on Wall Street. And then we need someone other than Schumer who does the bare minimum. The second thing we need police reform. Now, Biden just took it upon himself to do an executive order. I've been screaming about leading by executive order for the last 4 weeks. So if you're listening, Mr. President, you just started that ball of rolling. Use that inertia and get some momentum so that we can get some of these things done. And if Congress doesn't follow suit, do it alone. That's the only way you're going to be able to keep some of these campaign promises. This is the only way that you're going to be able to bring some of those visions that you have for the so-called soul of America to fruition. Somehow the fear rhetoric that these white domestic terrorists call a replacement theory, somehow that fear, that rhetoric, that propaganda has gone mainstream. And even some of the people that are running for Congress, when I'm in Atlanta and I hear people who are talking about it, I support the replacement theory. And you're running for public office. And I'm saying, where do they do that at? This is America. And who votes for them? And then I'm reminded, as much craziness is going on, as redundant, as common as these murders and these massacres have become, they are still not the majority, people. It's a loud minority. That's why it's up to us who are the majority to make our voices heard, to make sure that our votes are counted. We don't need condolences. We need legislation that says anyone who kills in the name of hurt will be treated like any other terrorist after 9/11. They need to be stripped of their citizenship. They need to be labeled terrorists. I'm tired of people using this mental health. No. I know people who really have mental health issues. You can't go in the military and not have some issues, whether you went to war or not. Do you know what it's like mentally and emotionally living for 4 years with the threat of war? There's some people that I know that really have mental health issues. And I hate to see them lumped into the same category of these self proclaimed supremacists. Not only should they be handled, there should be some back tracing it. And how were they radicalized? And those people should be held accountable too. The replacement theory. See, I talked about this before, and I want to reiterate this real quick. In 1977, a Democratic president by the name of Jimmy Peanut Carter had a study that referred to the blackening of America. 1977, people, that's 45 years ago. That study has been repeated ad nauseum in its analysis of this Trumpublican hate theory and rhetoric. And it's the reason why Jimmy Carter was the only living president that did not condemn Donald Trump and his delusional antics. Big George H.W. Bush, Little George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama. All of those living presidents came down on Trump. Jimmy Carter said, well, he's president. Give him time. He'll find his way. No. We're seeing an increase in an uptake of racial violence as a result of this man looking at these so-called nationalists and partnering with things like the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys and so forth and so on. That's how you radicalize. How does an 18-year-old who should be dribbling a basketball, throwing a fastball, catching a touchdown, or chasing little Susie Rotten crotch? How does an 18-year-old aspire to becoming a mass murderer? Where they do that at? Where they learn that at? When your so-called leaders submit to this way of radical thinking, see, if this was happening in Iraq or Afghanistan or any place else, we would say that they were being radicalized. We would call them extremists. We would call them terrorists. But now, because it happens in America and they look like you don't call it what it is. We're seeing too much sympathy and empathy from the police that's shown to these racist murderers when they commit these crimes of slaughter and massacre and mass murder. Conversely, an unarmed black man that looks just like me stands more of a chance of being killed in a traffic stop than a white man with a smoking gun in his hand after he's just slaughtered countless others, or many. So this is the party that breeds terrorists. And this is what we're fighting against in 166 days. On May the 14th, 20-year-old Jalen Bias was shot and killed after Osceola here in Florida, police spotted him and two of his boys supposedly shoplifting Pokemon cards and eating pizza in a Target that they didn't pay for. Rather than accost them or arrest them in the store, they let these boys get in their car and they opened fire on the car, killing 20-year-old Jaden. The other boy, one of his boys sitting in the front seat, raised his hands to surrender, and they shot one of the boy's fingers off. Luckily, that's all he lost was a finger and not his life. Jalen wasn't as lucky. 2 Saturdays ago, this 18-year-old boy donned body armor. He did reconnaissance. He planned. He went to the store on several occasions to plan how he was going to commit this murder, this slaughter. So the last thing he should have is a mental health defect or defense. And I'm tired of people using that. So don't get caught up in that. I don't care if you call yes, I can be on the jury. Yes, I can have an open mind. But I know a psychopath when I see it. So I'm going to call a spade, no pun intended. Last Tuesday, an 18-year-old Hispanic sociopath, this boy had beef with his mom, shot his grandmother in the face, and then went to an elementary school and murdered 19 kids that looked just like him. So I guess the only thing worse than being a mass murderer or committing a hate crime is hating yourself so much that you kill those that look like you. And 2 teachers. And guess what? He wasn't white, so he didn't make it out alive. Any surprises there? I don't think so. Today, in my very life, I went to the VA clinic right here in Daytona Beach. And they were on code black. They were on lockdown because some disgruntled vet crying for help, I guess, said he was going to commit suicide. No, bro. If you wanted to commit suicide, you got a pistol, you could kill yourself at the house. You could have killed yourself in the car. He popped off a couple rounds. He was taken into custody without incident. That really could have been ugly. There's something wrong with some people in this country when they don't get their way. Their answer is to deal with this with violence. So, Mr. Biden, Ms. Pelosi, Mr. Schumer, all of these congressional people, all of these people running for office, all of these people that's voting for people that's running for office, I need you to understand their assignment. It's time that we start electing people that's going to do what we need them to do. And it's time that we start holding people accountable. That's all I got for you tonight. I was going to talk about gas prices. I was going to talk about how gas prices have creeped up under the cloak of darkness while we've been so inundated with all of these people getting killed. But I'm not going to talk about that. I was going to talk about baby formula versus abortion. How you care so much about abortions, but you can't keep the ones that's already here alive because now baby formula is going to be so damn expensive that everyday people won't be able to purchase that shit. I was going to talk about that, but I'm not going to talk about that now. I was going to talk about Clarence Thomas in the Supreme Court and the fact that he found it after being in the Supreme Court, on the Supreme Court in 1991, he found it within himself to talk about overturning Roe v. Wade. But I don't hear anybody, Samuel Alito, John Roberts, Amy Coney Barrett, Clarence Thomas, Mayor, anybody, Kavanaugh, I don't hear any of them talking about gun control. I don't hear anybody talking about terrorists should be handled like terrorists and sent to Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay, and stripped of their citizenship and treated like any other terrorist. I don't hear any of that. So I'm pissed off tonight because no family should send their 5, 6, 7, 8, or 17-year-old to school and then pick up a toe tag out the morgue. Instead of planning for a graduation from kindergarten, you're planning a fucking funeral. That's all I got for you tonight. Do me a favor. Go to my YouTube. Subscribe. Ring the bell. Despite my anger tonight, leave me some thumbs up. Share my podcast with some people because this shit really matters. As always, I just want to say this. I appreciate you guys. I love you more than you could ever know. Thank you for being concerned about me last week. Thank you for all the congratulatory comments you left from my granddaughters and my family, and even my great grandson coming out of kindergarten. I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say it just how I feel it. It fucked my head up to think about my great grandson not making it home. So I hope you're pissed off as I am. I'm tired of hearing about it, but I'm energized, baby. You make me mad. Anger is the best motivator. So let's get motivated. And I'll see you here next week. Same Baptiste time, same Baptiste place. My name is Hank Batiste. This is OMITDALOGIC. This shit makes no sense, but we're going to make it make sense. We're going to make sense of it. As always, Martin, I wish you love. I wish you peace. Hair grease, I'm out of here. I love you. Good night.